In this session, we are going to talk about how to rethink our approach to generative AI. And I have someone I'm very excited to speak to about this topic. His name is Conor Grennan, and he's the Dean of Students and Head of Generative AI at NYU Stern School of Business. He's a New York Times bestselling author. He's a LinkedIn instructor for AI for Business. And I saw recently he's also the co-host of Applied AI podcast, which is one of the top podcasts on the topic as well. So really excited to dive into the world of generative AI in this session with him. He's coming from a different background than some guests I normally speak to. So warm welcome, Conor.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's fun to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen you posting a lot on LinkedIn. You have some courses on there. You have the podcast, obviously. But, in your day-to-day, you are at the head of generative AI at NYU Stern School of Business. So tell me a little bit about your background getting into that and like what it is that you actually do there. And maybe later we can dive into how that can be applied to my audience here, creators, solopreneurs, digital business owners.
Yeah, no, I love when you describe your audience, that feels like also like my people. I know it's your people too, like people who are just going out and they're like, we are going to make this world sort of shape it into new ways. I get really excited about that. So I'm excited to talk about that. Yeah, my background is, in the last 10 years has been in academia. So I'm the Dean of Students for the MBA program at NYU Stern School of Business, as you mentioned. And that's been amazing. So that's a lot of career focus and helping people become better leaders and just sort of watching what the future of work looks like. But then the head of generative AI at Stern is a more recent initiative, more recent for the world, really. This is sort of something that's only been around for a year. Of course, AI and generative AI has been around for longer than that, but something like ChatGPT has only been around for a little under a year now. So the way that happened was funny. And I'm not that into like origin stories and everything, but it's interesting for the sake of this in that my wife is in AI at McKinsey and Company, the consulting firm. And in the beginning of the year, she was showing me ChatGPT and she was saying, this is really going to be disruptive. And I tested it out and saw the same thing. And so what I ended up doing was creating a framework and an initiative so that we could teach our students, our MBA students who are, tend to be in their late 20s. They're already almost mid-career professionals, early career professionals, but very accomplished people. And, in those days, again, those days being back in February, it feels like years ago now, but it wasn't really well understood or the capabilities weren't well understood. And so what I ended up doing was going out to other companies and asking how they were doing it. And they were saying, we don't know how to do it either. So that sort of pulled me away and I started helping some other companies as well as helping our students. But that's how I got into sort of this dual space of being the dean of students and also head of generative AI at the NYU Stern Business School.
It's very interesting because I feel like how is this applied for your students, and maybe how can this be applied to the audience here? What it is that you teach them usually when they come to you about this, and
Yeah.
how do they apply this in their field of work?
Yeah. It's such a broad question that everybody's asking. That's exactly the right question, which is how do you actually apply this in your field of work? It's actually more complicated than we think. When I first started, I was thinking, okay, well, you just show people how to use this tool and then everybody's off and running and we're good to go. And in fact, that's not really how it worked out. And the reason it's not really how it worked out, I think, is because I would show people the tool and sort of train them on like generative AI, meaning like ChatGPT type programs. And they would learn it, but then not use it, which is, very typical for learning a new technology or really learning anything. And that got me sort of thinking, okay, so what's happening here, right? There must be something happening where, because the only two things involved are, the like ChatGPT and like the human brain, because there's no learning curve. All you need to do is be able to speak like a human. And it's really unlike anything we've ever experienced before. So when I was thinking how to teach it, once I realized that people would learn it, but not really use it in their day to day, I started thinking, okay, what's happening here? And it occurred to me, and I saw that things like OpenAI, ChatGPT, all these other programs, they don't actually have a user manual, which is actually very strange if you think about it, right? Because it's very powerful. And I was kind of exploring that as well. So, and looks like the reason why we don't have user manuals for this is that it applies to everyone very, very differently. So it's usually, typically, AI has always had very tight user interfaces, like spell check, things like that. But in this case, it's almost like you've torn the user interface off AI and said, use it however you want to use it.
Mm.
That's very complicated for people. for everybody, right? It's very complicated because it's sort of like if you said, hey, ChatGPT is this phenomenal thing for writing emails, people would know that and they'd start to write emails. Or if you said, oh, it's this phenomenal thing for creating social media content, then people would do it for that. Or if you said it's a phenomenal thing for creating podcast scripts, people would do it for that. Or if you said it's a phenomenal thing for creating infinite numbers of focus groups and talking to simulated humans, but it can do all of those things. And so when you have that, then when you have almost too much to choose from, people don't really know how to do it. So it's not very helpful to say, as I used to say, just use it for anything. That's not helpful. It's sort of like when people say, just practice on it. By the way, that's true because the only thing you need to know how to do is talk like a human. The reason that it's hard when you just say, just practice on it is because it's simple, but not easy. So in other words, everybody knows to lose weight, you have to eat less and exercise. It's in all of our control. You don't need any special tools. You don't need anything at all. Really, you just need to eat fewer bags of chips and you need to go on a walk. And yet we don't do it because it's simple, but the brain stops us from doing that. So that's the complexity that I found early on in this whole thing.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people also in my field. They dive into it, but maybe they are not getting the results. But it's because you need to know how to use the tool. It's the same thing. You like to identify great copy or great content online. You need to know it. If you're going to ChatGPT and asking it to write a blog post or a copy for an email or a sales page, and you don't know what actually great copy looks like, you're also going to struggle because you cannot identify it. Even if you know how to use the tool to get something out of it, but you don't know how to actually identify what is good and bad, then it's not going to work. And that's what I see across the board a little bit. And that's why also I don't know if you noticed this as well. There's a lot of specialized tools.
Yeah.
I think ChatGPT is a generalist. Basically,
Yeah.
you can do anything with it, as you mentioned. And there's some plugins and whatnot. I've probably tested like 100 to just know a lot of them. And there are some of them good, some are bad, and some are like not that great for productivity. But I feel that's what's happening. If I want to write this in-depth blog post, I might go to a specialized tool like Content at Scale or something like that, which is this fantastic tool for just putting in a link from a video or a keyword. I don't need to prompt it really. I don't know what you feel about this. I think people with ChatGPT, they need to be like prompt engineers a little bit, or at least know how to talk to the AI a lot more than using these specialized tools. So
Yeah.
interested to hear your take on it.
It's so interesting, right? So I think you're right. I think that, the specialized tools are a way of people being able to use these more easily because you're sort of getting to the root of the problem that I discovered, which I call like the treadmill problem, sort of, which is thinking that the tool is going to solve your problems. So when you buy a treadmill because you want to get in shape, you get the treadmill and then it turns out that doesn't get you in shape because you actually have to run on it and you start running on it and your brain is saying, oh, this is terrible. I don't want to run on this thing anymore. Because the problem is with the problem is not with the tool, the problem is with the brain. And so what all these fantastic devices and fantastic companies are doing, like the ones you're talking about, Content at Scale and others, they're saying, hey, listen, just come in. We are going to do a tailored sort of program for you. So you just like walk in here and we're going to take care of everything. Whereas ChatGPT is more like a generalist. It's like you walk into a warehouse and it's okay, go find your tool, go find everything. But then why I think people say practice on it, and it is important to practice, but it's important to practice in a very targeted and strategic way, I think. Because the thing is, my take on it is that you actually don't really need to know how to prompt. I think the idea is that people feel like, now, in fairness, to get really phenomenal, almost automated content, yeah, prompting is really important. But just to get going on it, the reason I don't teach prompt engineering is because the most important step is just to talk to it and talk to it like a human and you start getting the result. And I think that one of the things that happened with, the notion around prompt engineering is that I think people thought that you have to do it in a specific way in order to get specific results. And that's actually not really true. ChatGPT 4 especially is just outstanding at really understanding what you are trying to do. Now you have to tweak it and refine it. So you might say, hey, write me a blog post about gardening in South America or something like that. And it will do something, but it'll be so general because it doesn't know you. So the more context you give it, so you might say, hey, I'm Connor and I live in Bolivia and I live in this kind of thing. And I'm going to be there between June and August. And this is the kind of thing I have access to. Then it's really going to give you a better response because it has context. So I think sometimes people think, oh, you just say, hey, I want to garden in South America. And people are like, and ChatGPT just thinks, well, I don't know where you're going, so let me give you a general answer. So it's like almost working with an intern or something. You have to, continue to iterate. You have to constantly give it feedback, but it's really just talking. So the case that I try to make is that if we can get away from prompt engineering, it means we get away from this hurdle to using this well, and instead just say, how would you talk to it like an intern? Now, let me just say one other thing on that, which is, why is that hard? It shouldn't be hard. You're great at talking like a human. I can hear you. I'm great at talking like a human. The audience is great at talking like a human. We're phenomenal at it.
Yeah.
It's hard because your brain is very good at automating things and pattern prediction, things like that. So when it sees a baby, you don't have to say, okay, Connor, this is a baby. Don't talk to this like a college professor. No, your brain has automated, this is a baby. This is how you talk. When you see your computer screen, you don't think, in order to talk to it like a human, it's very difficult. Your brain yanks you back into what we know, which is this sort of way of working with Google, which is like a command and response, right? You give a command, you get a response, and then you hope it's good.
Yeah.
And then you walk away. So I think that is, while these other tools are fantastic and really useful, especially for content creation, everything, you can do all that with ChatGPT. It just requires, as exactly as you said, you to be in the loop and know what is good and what is bad.
Yeah, no, it's really, really interesting that you say this, because I think still the $20 a month for the ChatGPT Plus is still one of my best money I spend
Oh,
every month. I don't use it for everything. I have other specialized tools, but if you're starting out and just gonna dabble with this a little bit, I think it's great. You can do so much with it. You can take a YouTube video and like summarize it. I just tested some different
yeah.
tools in there. You can upload like a transcript. There's so many things you can do. But then, as you said, and with the prompt engineering, I feel it's interesting as well. A lot of people I see on LinkedIn and elsewhere, they are pushing a lot of these prompt packs. And I think maybe they have its use case to some extent. You can get some great results with certain things, but I also think it's not the good use of your time to spend all the days trying to the perfect prompt to get something great out of it, especially for
Right.
a creator. If you're running a business and things like that. And I feel a lot of these people selling this, they are only teaching basically AI or something and trying to sell their prompt pack. That's what I
Yeah.
see.
Oh,
But yeah, so that's just interesting because I see some other speakers I have had the pleasure to speaking to as well. They say we are coming into like a promptless AI or something like that. That's kind of the trend. I don't know if you've seen this as well a little bit. That's where we are headed, actually.
no, I totally agree. So I post every day on LinkedIn about what I'm discovering and my research and findings and news and everything like that. And I think what I was just posting on LinkedIn recently was about this study that shows exactly that, which is prompting is starting to go away. And why is that? It's because the technology underneath it is actually better at asking you the right questions in order to get the right response. So this is something that will, I think, be built in more and more. And if you've ever used a tool like Perplexity, which I don't want to go too far, but Perplexity now for me has replaced Google, really. But what Perplexity is, it has ChatGPT and Claude, if you have the pro version, underlying it, but it essentially does away with this hallucination problem. And what happens is you say, hey, I'm really looking for how, what's happening with Walmart these days, right? So what it will do is it'll say, well, first, let's clarify what you mean. But this is why prompting is going away, right? It's like, do you mean Walmart stock? Do you mean what's happening with real estate with Walmart? Do you mean on the macroeconomic for big box store? Whatever it is, right? And it just gets a better sense by asking you what you do, right? And what you're actually asking. And then it will give you 6 or 7 links to real-time things on news and everything else, which is phenomenal. So that to me has completely now replaced Google. But when you talk about prompt packs, I put in the same category. I don't know how you feel about this. Like hey, here's 1,000 tools that you can use, right?
Yeah.
It's people have like this AI FOMO. Do you know what I mean? Feeling like, oh, I just have a list of 1,000 prompts. Everything will be in there. Here's the problem with that. The problem is it's sort of, this is a very reactive tool. It's not proactive. This is why it's so great for creators, even though sometimes creators don't see it right away. It's great because what it does is it augments you. It's reactive to you. It's not proactive. It doesn't say, hey, why don't we try this? And you're like, well, I don't know. No, it's, if you put in, and especially with creators who are really good at this, it's going to like level up you. And so what I think about it is, think about like, the light bulb versus like electricity, right? If you went back in time and you showed people a light bulb, people would be like, this is amazing. It can do this and this and this. If you went back in time and showed people electricity, and you said, this is even more powerful, people might say, great, how do you use it? But how do you answer that question, right? It depends. It depends. Like the use cases for electricity are going to be very different from you and me sitting in this session right now than from a coal miner somewhere, and very different than a doctor. You can't just trade use cases. That's why prompt packs and things like that don't work. It's even why packs of tools don't work, because this is a reactive technology. And what I would say to creators and marketers and everything else is, if you're not satisfied with the output that something like ChatGPT 4 is giving you, which is a phenomenal tool, what I tell people is, if you're good at something, I'm a writer, right? So I write the first draft and I have ChatGPT come and make it more readable to me. The reason when things go wrong, I think, is if I just said, hey, ChatGPT, write me a LinkedIn post or something, right? Because my voice, and probably the voice of probably every good creator out there, your voice is everything, right? Like, what you know to be good is everything. That's your value add, right? And so you want to put that first. Otherwise, you're just going to be wrestling with whatever junk ChatGPT has put out for
And
you.
you know
But
what
if
is funny?
ChatGPT, I found, yeah.
Something that is funny. I had checked out some things. A lot of these people who are selling these prompt packs, do you think they are using this to create their LinkedIn posts? No, they are not. They are not using what they are
No.
selling to their audience, which is,
Ugh,
I don't like that as much. I'm like with integrity. When I'm selling something, usually I'm using it or have had students use it and they have great success. So I think it sounds good to have 1,000, 2,000 tools or whatever it is. I saw a list of like 6,000 tools. Do you think you need all these tools? I mean, I think the
Amazing.
trend, what I'm seeing a lot is that tools I'm already using. We are using Riverside to record this, and actually Descript is, Riverside might watch out. Descript just bought Squadcast, so
Oh, did they?
basically,
I didn't know that. Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
they bought it. So basically now it's basically the same price point. It's just interesting to talk. We are using Riverside, but I think if they make Squadcast a little better, maybe I think Descript just have everything built in. They have like such phenomenal AI features in there. So I see the trend, tools you're already using, they're gonna have AI built in. So you might not need the next shiny tool that comes out unless it's really revolutionary, of course.
Yeah.
But that is kind of what I'm seeing. Like a lot of tools just comes out builds on top of the OpenAI API, and it's not really a full-blown SaaS or anything like that with much more than just maybe they're solving one use case, but they don't have too much more. I think there's just
Yeah.
that's what I see at least.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. Especially, I don't know if you saw the more recent news about ChatGPT is now integrating all its tools. And by the time maybe we air this,
Uh-huh.
maybe everybody will have it. But
You're talking about the plugins, right?
yeah, the plugins, but also just everything. So they
Uh-huh.
now have, so I don't have access to it yet, but again, maybe when it
Mhm.
goes live, I will, I hope. But it's, if you use the pro account, and I'm with you, if people are not using $20 a month toward this, I don't know what they're using $20 a month for. So, but basically you have all these features on the pro account for ChatGPT. You have, for $20 a month, you have DALL-E, you have what used to be called Code Interpreter, Advanced Data Analytics, you have a
Mhm.
web browser on there, you have Vision, you have the ability to talk to it, you have all these things on there. But in the past, you had to choose which of those tools you wanted to use in ChatGPT from this drop-down menu. And now they're going to integrate it all, so you have it all in one thing. And one of the big things, oh, and PDFs you can now drop in this new thing. Just
That's
drop, instead of
fantastic.
using the
Yeah.
plugin Chat PDF, or Ask My PDF, which you've probably used a lot,
Yep.
which is incredibly valuable and one of the most valuable things. If I'm like looking to create a post about something, but there's this giant white paper, I just get the PDF, I ask for insights for it, and then I write my own stuff from those insights. But with this new integration, I think what we're seeing is that I think a lot of plugins may go away. And I think all these startups that you're talking about that build on top of the API, I don't know what the future is. It was almost like they got ahead of the game and they built a tool that ChatGPT couldn't do yet. But ChatGPT is coming like a freight train, and it's just going to, all these things are, right? Like Descript, Anthropic, they're all coming to just mow down a lot of these startups that were just doing one small task.
Mhm. Yeah, that's what I see. And I think like Jasper and Copy.ai and these companies, they had a head start a little bit.
Yeah.
I think I mean, some of them are still doing really well, but I think they started to struggle a little bit with certain things, especially Jasper
Yeah.
when ChatGPT came out and all these things still have great. I think they're moving in more to enterprise, which might be a smart move from them. But then also content at scale. That's just an incredible tool. Like I have not seen any other tool create the content. I took like a video, even if let's say we are recording this, I can drop the link from the YouTube video and it writes a 2,000 to 3,000 word blog post. Really detailed. Like I just tested it recently with Julia McCoy, who's the president of that. I haven't seen any other tool do that. I don't know, not in the same detail and same quality. So I
Is
guess
it
it
in your,
depends.
tell the audience and me a little bit about that. Does it, because I love the usability. So this podcast I have is called
It's
AI
just more
Applied.
expensive. So I think it's like
Okay.
it starts like 500. Maybe they're gonna have a plan like lower, but I think that's why it's maybe not as accessible. Like a lot of these cheaper
Got it.
tools. For me, who had writers before, I paid like over 1,000, 2,000 a month sometimes for some writers to do a few posts for me when I produced a lot of content. And now with these new tools, I could use ChatGPT. I could use other tools as well. but that would actually take me longer, or like train someone, because you have to go in stages because of the, token limit and whatnot. It's like takes a lot longer to do
Yeah.
it there. But if I'm going into a specialized tool, it's just gonna be a lot faster. Basically, one click, you can even do your keyword research in there. Like I haven't seen
Wow.
any other. Surfer SEO is close to that, which is really good as well. So that is what I'm seeing. I don't know why people, if you want to produce really good content, which is ultimately what Google wants, like Google doesn't penalize AI content, it penalizes bad content, right?
Mm.
That's what
Yeah.
it does. They have even said that. Before it was like against AI content, but not anymore. Especially if you add your personal touch, you mentioned for your LinkedIn post, it's important to do that, I think, to add personality. I don't know. I'm interested to hear what you think about this, because
Yeah,
a lot
no,
of
it's
people this crap, to be honest.
I mean, forget it. You can. It's funny. So I saw this written. I think Ethan Mollick, the professor at Wharton, said this, which is when you think you can identify AI writing, you're just identifying bad AI writing, right? So, like in my custom instructions, which is a little feature in ChatGPT, I always say no jargon, no emoji.
Yeah.
Otherwise it's like unleash the power of AI, and then also harness the power. I don't know how you both unleash and harness, but here you go. And then it's like all these emojis, everything else.
Use always this unleash or harness. I feel he's
It's
using
just
always these
the
words.
power, yeah, the power unleash, and again, and then it has a rocket emoji, right? That's how you know that this is written by ChatGPT. But for me and for you, and probably for a lot of your followers and audience as well, again, your voice is everything, because that's what sets you apart. Otherwise, everything is just sort of the same. And what I'm so fascinated by, and this is why I started this podcast with Jaden Schaefer, who has the #1 AI podcast in the world, AI Applied. It's because we saw these things, but we kept getting questions. Because what I also do is I work with companies to train them on generative AI, as well as doing this with our students at Stern. But what I kept finding was people saying, how do you use it? I see all these things, but actually, what do you do? So we really focus on, okay, here's the news and here's why it matters to you. Here's a tool and here's how it works for you. And so what you're describing there is something like, content at scale and everything like that. And maybe I know that there's other tools out there like this, but if it can really capture your voice, and boy, what you were saying about taking YouTube, turning into a blog, as long as it really captures your voice, that to me feels like the holy grail, right?
I would say it was like 85 to 90% there.
What?
I No, really close, because you can put in that let's say like a blog. I mean, my blog, probably I'm not as famous as someone like Neil Patel, so I'm not gonna be in there Navid's voice
Yeah,
for
right.
in the full.
That's
But
right.
and probably most of the people, they will not be in there. But some famous marketer or something like that, or copywriter, will be in there, and they have probably built in something from behind the scenes that they can actually capture Brian Dean's voice of backlink, or it's pretty simple at the end of the day. Like what I don't like with ChatGPT sometimes, that it gives you this long paragraphs. You can go around it, you can fix it, of course, and you can tell them not to do that. But still, I find it sometimes it does that, like long sentences or complicated things. I want to write very simple, like as I speak, pretty much.
Hmm.
And that's what you can get out of like specialized tools, more like Content at Scale. I'm also testing something for my blog, because I use WordPress, like Content AI by RankMath, which is like an SEO plugin. So I'm testing a lot of
Wow.
specialized tools as a complement to what I'm using, like the more general ones, like ChatGPT. I use a lot for ideation, things like that. What you mentioned for your LinkedIn things, you might draft it up and then you might ask for suggestions, or maybe
Yeah,
headline ideas or hook ideas. I think ChatGPT is fantastic for these things. So yeah,
it
that's
is.
how I
Yeah.
use.
I'm so glad to hear you say that, because I haven't really messed around with the Grammarly's, Jaspers, and I haven't messed around with it because you know how sometimes you get stuck in your head and you feel like, oh, I'm good at this already, right? So again, like as a writer, I always pride myself on, oh, Connor, you're such a good writer. But then but then I see everybody else racing ahead of me because you're sort of using these amplification tools. And I'm with you. ChatGPT is phenomenal at amplifying. It's also very good at just like, so what I do is like, I put something in there that I already really like, right? Because what ChatGPT used to do, and maybe people run into this too. So I write a lot on, again, social or content or whatever. And I used to put something in and I would say, how do I make this better? So what would it do? It would go in there and it would tear it apart in big ways or little ways. But that's a problem, because if you're a content creator, sometimes you just want to put stuff out. But if you really care about your words, you'll have a sentence or two in there that are really you. Do you know what I mean? That really speak to you and that really sound like you. So like you, I have a very casual tone of voice, but then I'll say, okay, write in a casual tone. And you know what I'm going to say here? It's all, hey, bro, like, can't wait to hang. I'm like, no, I don't mean like bro and some surfer. You know what I mean? Like, I want to sort of like not highly structured formal, but
Yeah.
just more casual. So, but if, Grammarly, Jasper, Content Scale, all these things can do that, it's one of the frontiers I haven't really explored yet.
Yeah, I feel I was not all, I used Jasper from the very beginning because that was one of the early AI tools, but I feel like I never got really into it. Then I had writers. I never replaced writers with this, for example, and things like that. And I don't think I would 100% replace it. I think something that AI is not really good at is to give your personal story and examples. You can, of course, add some
Right.
context into it, but I feel that's why I also love video content because it's my unique content. If I'm telling an AI tool like Content at Scale or even in ChatGPT to write about a specific keyword for my
Hmm.
blog, let's say email marketing, it's not going to give my specific examples. It's not going to give the strategies I possibly want to highlight there unless I
Hmm.
mention it more. But if I have a video going through this that I recorded, I can like then take that video, drop a link and get really unique content. And I might only
Yeah.
spend a little bit of time to tweak that.
Yeah.
That's why I'm a huge fan of video content and then that's my main content and everything else the AI kind of takes care of, and I can have an assistant or someone like an editor to do the rest, or even do it yourself if you're just starting out. It doesn't take too much time like it used to do. That's kind of
That's really amazing because I think that you're hitting on where AI is taking us, especially again where we apply it. And it's you have like your one this guy I work with Robert Haslam, who's a phenomenal design guy, but he really understands this. And the way he says it is like think about like like faith or religion, right? So you have like your book. Do you know what I mean? Like you have, the Bible or whatever you have. And then from that you have like, your hymns that come out of that. You have your sermons that come out of that, but you have your main thing. So it sounds like for you, I'm still trying to sort of get my head around that. For me, I'm doing a couple things again, like this podcast, and I have sort of just a small YouTube channel just because I think it's fun, but it's not my main thing. But and then LinkedIn, and I want to be doing all these things, but it sounds like you're really nailing how you sort of like start with video. So, I mean, can you take us through that process a little bit?
yeah,
Paradigm in mind?
yeah, it's nice that you asked me a little bit. That's cool. I have a lot more questions for you as well
Yeah,
about
yeah,
the
yeah.
ethical implications. But yeah, I can think. I mean, basically, I like doing summits. I really enjoy doing these conversations. I also create courses and things like that, but I've come up with a process that it's very easy to just hit record. I might use an AI tool like ChatGPT for outlining certain things, just kind of get some ideas. And then I have, let's say, a recorded session I can just use a screen share tool like Loom, or I can use Ecamm or Riverside, whatever I use. And I
Hmm.
hit record, I share screen or talk about a specific topic for 30 minutes to an hour. That's a lot of words, right? And then I can
Hmm.
just take that content and repurpose it essentially into other content. For the social media, of course, is so many pieces of content. I can create a lot of short form content. That's something I started with recently. So I don't have a lot because we're starting like a new brand, kind of for this event we are doing as well. So I just seen like these tools. I was not impressed initially. Now I'm more impressed with what it can do. I've seen kind of how they have improved a lot in just a few months. It's
Yeah.
crazy. Like Content at Scale, I tested it before. I was not too impressed with the quality. And then when Julia came on for the summit and doing a video with her, I was just impressed. He was blown away because he created this amazing piece of content about something
Wow.
we just did on the fly on a recording like this. It was not planned or anything like that. We
Wow.
just did it. So yeah, just getting and then I'm getting the content, then edit it afterwards, basically taking a YouTube link or something like that, getting the content from that. If I have a paid piece of content like for a course, before I used to hire people to create action guides and workbooks and things like that. I don't need to do that in the same way anymore because I
Right.
can get that from AI like ChatGPT, similar tools like also the chapters for YouTube video. I can use a tool. I can do that in ChatGPT as well, but I had a tool that called Instant Chapters. I think it's instantchapters.com or something like that. And I'm just getting the YouTube chapters, like really specific ones,
Yeah.
instantly. And I just
Wow.
copy it in. And then the YouTube descriptions, tags, everything, all the supporting content, I don't need to do anymore. This is like mundane tasks that was just taking me so long and just cumbersome when it comes to producing a lot of content. And I think maybe you feel the same, or the audience watch. If you're watching this, you probably feel the same as well. You're like a YouTuber, podcaster, blogger. You don't want to do all these kind of tasks. You want to create. You probably enjoy creating some content. You want to add your creativity to this. What we are doing here. This is the main content for me right now. So I want to make sure we have an insightful conversation, add value. That's what I want to do.
That is thanks for sharing that process because I think that's really helpful for people. It's definitely helpful for me because it's
Yeah.
one of those things where yeah, I'm still overdoing it, right? But when you start to get into this flow, like it sounds like you are in, And by the way, we should tell everybody this takes time too. Some people are probably just ripping ahead on this, but when you see like you do it, and and I know Matt Wolf and some of these phenomenal guys who are doing this, like they have a process. Jaden Schaefer, who I do the podcast with, they have a process, and when you talk to them, it sounds like you, right? Which is you've found a way to do the thing that you're very, very good at, which is the heart of business value, right? If you can have a business from one person to 1,000 people, and if you have everybody doing what they are good at, that is going to create the most value. And what AI, it sounds like, has done, and I know I've experienced it as well, is it allows you to, I don't like to say the word necessarily automate, but you know what I mean, because it's automated with a human interaction in it.
Yeah.
But what it does is it just speeds up this process that you would have gotten to anyway. It's not taking somebody else's words. I get this a lot because I come from academia. Is it plagiarism? No. I mean,
Well,
yeah,
it's interesting. Just on that, because you come
yeah,
from this background. What is the approach there? Because a lot of, especially my mom is a teacher, so I
yeah.
think they're a little bit against it because like people, are students gonna cheat now? They can get all the information from AI,
Right.
ChatGPT and things like that. What is the approach? Especially you're like at NYU, which is the top, and especially the business
Yeah.
school you're at is one of the top business schools.
It's tough. It's tough. So when people say, okay, so how have you solved it? I'm like, you haven't solved it. Like what? Like, so number one is, look, I have a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old. So I would go and speak to their school, to their teachers and say, hey, listen, here's the number one thing you have to know. First of all, I show them how to use it through this. So I have a 3-part framework by which I sort of like kind of teach people how to use it. But more importantly, I'm like, if you're just talking to it like a human, then that's great. So, and I say, go on just because this is me talking, I was like, okay, go on my LinkedIn and go on my, AI applied podcasts and everything like this. You'll
Mhm.
find a lot of tips and tricks, but I want to give them the big overview first, which is, yes, we are scared of plagiarism. I get it. From the beginning of time, we've been scared of plagiarism. However, the important thing to know here is that, if kids all of a sudden have like an Iron Man suit or something, like if they all of a sudden have a jetpack and they can create a paper about Hamlet in 2 minutes, you as a teacher also have that same superhero power. So what does that mean? Well, it means that we probably have to rethink what we call the proxies for grading, meaning like it used to be that you'd find out how good somebody was in your English class by how well they wrote this paper on Shakespeare. Well, that's the proxy for grading, right? It's like now we need something else because you can't do that anymore. Or you can, but you're not going to know if people are really doing it or not because there's no AI detection system that works. People should know that. Even OpenAI tried to put a ton of money into this, and finally they gave up. They're like, this is not going to
There's a
work.
few
So,
tools, but maybe they are not 100% accurate. I've tried a few of them. There's also in certain tools like I'm using, they have it. As I mentioned, Content at Scale, they have it as well. But I think if you follow my process, the way I do it, I'm not
mhm.
gonna worry about this because I'm using usually unique content anyway. I'm not just gonna tell the hey, write about this unless it's something I really, let's say I want to write a review about a tool. Then maybe I put in the keyword there and I'll let it come out. But I would
Mm.
add my personality to it anyway. I will tweak it. I will make it my own. I think that's if someone just taking it straight off, like from maybe it can be like some things out there. There's really no new content. It's just spun basically. It's
No,
like, in
that's
different
right.
ways.
No, you're right. So it's like AI detectors work if people just took something from ChatGPT and put it into the AI detector. But that's not how it works. I mean,
Mm.
okay, if you're an idiot and you're trying to cheat and you do that, then you deserve what you get, right? You deserve sort of that failing grade. But
Yeah.
so instead, what we talk with teachers about is you have to come up with new ways of grading, right? You have to, because if AI detectors are not going to be very effective, because all it takes is to write something in ChatGPT and then tweak it and say, hey, change this a little bit, and it's undetectable all of a sudden. So with teachers, what we say, or I say, I guess, is think this is going to allow you to become incredibly creative. And, so I have like tons of ideas for teachers, really. But for example, some of them are have the student come in and like allow, first of all, number one, allow everybody to use AI because they're going to anyway. So then how do you do that? I find AI to be the best instructor ever. And here's why, because we tend to be very bad learners, and we're bad learners because it's hard to, if I'm asking you about your process, you know more about it than me, and you're going to come up with some terms that I'm not going to know, but I don't want to look dumb in front of you because I respect you. And so I'm not going to ask all my dumb questions. People say, oh, I ask dumb questions. Not always. Not if you're in front of somebody you really, really respect, right? And you're not going to ask every dumb question. So instead, you have ChatGPT or something like that you can actually ask all those questions. And so I've learned more with about string theory or something like that, or APIs, or how things work deep in the internet by asking ChatGPT because it's incredibly patient and it will explain it to me as if I'm 12 years old, or in the analogy of balloon animals, or whatever I want. And so with teachers and in academia, The issue is you just say, look, what's a better way to teach this? And you can ask ChatGPT, what's a better way to teach the parts of the cell rather than having people go and take a take home test? And it will come up with ideas. And there have been like a lot of fun ideas out there, but that's sort of how I think you have to approach it.
No, this very interesting what happens in this world, because I've seen some schools and things, they ban using it and things like. I think that is wrong. I think I like your approach a lot better, that you actually embrace it and make something out of it, because yeah, as you said, the teachers have access to it as well, and the students. So you rather than make something out of it, it's not going away. It's just gonna get bigger and more powerful and things like that. And I think the people using it, they're gonna get ahead. So it's better to learn it. Students who learn how to use it, they might get better jobs or whatever that is, right? I
I
mean,
tell people that.
you're going on to what's interesting is that you also go. I think you consult with a lot of companies and things like that on
Mhm.
generative AI. What is something you teach them, or what you see that could be applied to this audience here with creators? Because I assume these are like bigger companies and things like that. You go and consult.
Yeah, they tend to often be bigger companies, but yeah, I think that it's the same principles though really apply, right? Which is if you're having trouble with it, or just first of all, assume that it can help you. And number two, assume that you're not using it to its maximum capacity because every once in a while you'll find something. But it's why I don't really go into particular use cases because if I do that, then if I'm working with a healthcare company or something like that, and I go in and I say, well, they say, first question, how does this apply to healthcare? And what I used to do is I say, here's the 10 best use cases for healthcare or something like that. And the problem is that then you go back, a month later, and they're still basically using those kinds of use cases because, as you said in the beginning, people want a wrapper around it, right? They want to know how to use this tool. But instead, we do exercises where it's like, hey, listen, first let's understand what the brain is doing here. Because if you just say to people, again, the exercise analogy, if people say, how do I get in shape? And you say, you should eat less and exercise. That's both completely true, completely simple, and also completely unhelpful because it has nothing to do with having the knowledge. It has to do with how do you apply the knowledge? And also, more importantly, why is it hard to apply the knowledge? And so, what I talk to them first is, why is it hard to use something that's the easiest thing in the world to use? And we go through that, right? And I sort of talk about like, well, it's because the way the brain sees this, it doesn't know what it is. And the brain is very good, again, at pattern prediction, automation, things like that. And when it sees something like this, your brain is so locked into using Google that it's trying to do that. So you're just getting wrenched back in your brain because it's trying to protect you, keeps wrenching you back into what it knows. Stay in your lane, stay in your lane. When in fact, what you really need to do is sort of, create a new paradigm by which like, okay, this now looks like this. So we start with the idea of let's understand, first of all, why it's hard to use. Then let's understand how you work. Then let's understand how you apply this to how you work. And that's like the big broad framework.
Yeah, no, it's for sure. This is the way to approach it, because I think a lot of people, they don't do it the right way. I think it's like for me, learning skills and things like that now, or I don't know how to code, for example, or like adding like something to my blog or whatever. Maybe I want to change something. Before, I always had to go to my developer or designer
Hmm.
to do things like that. Now I could tweak things. I wouldn't do, there's tools to do a full automated website with AI. I wouldn't do that, like at
Yeah,
least
right.
the level I'm at. But it's possible. It's gonna get better. Probably in some time in the future, you will be able to take like one page you have on your site, and AI will just be able to clone it
Yeah.
perfectly. I think that is just a matter of time. But yeah, this is really interesting, like how this just applies. Because I think if you have, as you mentioned many times, having a real conversation with the AI, you can just get better responses. Because what if you have an intern working for you? Maybe I get an intern from, let's say, the Philippines or wherever
Yeah.
that is. They're not gonna know how to do everything in your business. Just telling them, hey, go and do this. Go and
Yes,
set up
right, right,
Riverside.
right. Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
imagine that is what people often expect the
I
AI
know.
to do, like ChatGPT or whatever tool you use. So I think that is like, that's why I like this conversation, because you have actually shared a lot of times. Be human. The prompting maybe it has its place, but yeah, it's going away slowly. I think it's not gonna be as powerful as it maybe was. Like, it's gonna be behind the scenes, a lot of things behind the tools. That's why something I see, especially in the education space online, a lot of people are building specific tools for their customers, their students, because then you can actually, they don't need to be prompt engineers. They can actually go in. Let's say I'm building like something for virtual summits, because we have done this for a long time. So I have my process. I have done for you templates. So I
Hmm.
could use forms and different things. There's also a tool I found, formwise.ai. You can basically build your own AI tool without any code, which is wild. Yeah. So these, that's trends I'm seeing. Like, it's gonna be behind the scenes. Like, people don't. people just want to answer a set of questions that they know, like maybe about their audience, about their product, and then you get a good output basically because you put great things in. Like you don't, if you just gonna prompt the AI to do it, you might not get the best results. So that's what I'm seeing things headed,
Yeah.
especially in the education space, more to just offer more value because tools have higher perceived value as well.
They do, and it's funny because a lot of them will get swallowed up, like the tools that exist. But you're right, like the concept of a tool
Yeah.
is better, right? Because with that tool, then you know how to use it. That's why we were saying in the beginning, sometimes people buy a tool and they expect it to buy the behavior that comes along with the tool, like
Yeah.
buying a treadmill, but you're not. You're just buying the tool and you have to work with your brain. And this is the thing, right? So I have this LinkedIn learning course on AI for challenges and opportunities. And what that is kind of like goes through every part of the business, like, engagement, business differentiation, everything, like, and how the AI tools can apply to that and how you think about it. But it has a combination, right? How you have to think about that as a problem and then what you can do with that problem. But you have to have, a course like that, for example, because you have to sort of go, because it's so different with all those things. It's different with engagement. It's different with differentiation and everything like that. And when
Mm.
you have a tool like ChatGPT that's so broad, I love this idea of the intern, and I talk about it, I think the same way you talk about it,
Yeah.
which is if you hired like an intern, knowing that again, as we said, you're going to have them working in very different ways across all these different things. That's why you work with engagement differently, different business differentiation, everything differently. Let's say you had this intern and you hired the smartest intern in the world. This person got the award. They're wearing their badge. It says smartest intern in the world, and they're sitting next to you. And you're like, hey, can you help me do this? And they do it, but they don't get it exactly right. So there might be a couple of things, right? Maybe your question was wrong. Maybe they're still figuring it out. But what you would not do is say, okay, smartest intern in the world, you are fired. Like you had one chance to get this right. Get out of here. No, of
Mhm.
course not. What would you do, right? You'd say, okay, well, here's actually what I meant. Let me try to rephrase. Do you understand what I'm saying? Can you repeat it back to me? Here's some examples. This kind of single shot, double shot prompting. Yeah, prompting when they talk about that. Give examples, work with it a little bit, maybe show it like a broader example. That's what you would do if you had number one intern in the world sitting next to you. You would not fire. And yet with ChatGPT, as you say, there's this expectation that you put in one thing, it doesn't know how to do it, or it does not that it doesn't know how to do it. It just does it in a way that you were not expecting. And you think, I guess this doesn't work. It's ludicrous.
Yeah, and a lot of people quit when they find this.
They quit.
And they say, okay, it doesn't work. They didn't give me great output. But it's like if you put in garbage, you get garbage out. It's this.
That's right.
I'm sure a lot of people have heard this, but that's so true. And yeah, people give up too early. I think in this world because they simply don't do it the right way. You should just have a conversation. I think if you don't know anything else, just start having a conversation. Or you can, I think something that works sometimes is let's say act like an expert
Yeah.
copywriter. I think that works to some extent. Or if I'm gonna do, let's say, an interview and I wanted to have some question from the AI to just test it out or an outline or something, I can say, hey, you're a famous podcast interviewer with 10 years of experience and speak like Joe Rogan. I mean, something like that. I could do that and
Yeah.
it will get it. It does pretty well with these kind of things. I think that is a good starting point, I think, for someone to just get into it. But if you're gonna write this in-depth blog post or this in-depth like a sales page right off the bat, you're probably gonna fail because that's more difficult to do with just the ChatGPT. You will get something, but if you don't know what, as you mentioned, if you don't know what a good one looks like, how are you gonna actually identify this? It might not even be worthwhile because bad content doesn't rank in Google. You need to do it really well. So it's
Yeah.
pointless. I feel
Right.
people are just cranking out pointless content a lot of the times. We don't need more content. Google has there's an abundance of content, right? We don't need more. We need great content to take over the spots. But bad content is never gonna do anything either. It doesn't
So
do much
I
business.
so that's I want to stay on that for a second because I get
Yeah,
asked this question a lot. And I wonder what your take on this is, which is
sure.
I get asked a lot, is this going to do away with search engine optimization? Is it going to go away with search? What does it do with ads? If everybody's like, this is a long time before people really migrate over. And I think Bing probably has ads, but like ChatGPT and like a lot of these places don't have that same kind of thing. Do you have like an opinion on sort of like what that's going to do to search engine optimization?
I think it's still gonna be a thing. That's how Google was built. Maybe Google has had AI built in like long time, right? For identifying, they
Yeah.
had like a lot of algorithms and things like that, and they have always been great at identifying the best content. Usually, at least, not always. That's why they do updates to, and then they penalize sites. There was like in the early 2000s, maybe to, I don't know, 2006 and beyond a little bit. You can rank for anything. You could write an affiliate article was crap and you would rank for it. You just started the site and next day,
Right.
these days are long gone. You need
Yeah.
to have pretty good content. Like
Hmm.
before you could like have a site with like an exact match domain about something and you would just rank for it because you had it.
Right. Right.
Yeah, it's like this has long changed. So I think Google is really good at evolving, and I'm interested to see where their AI Bard, where because that's going to be integrated with Google. I think they has
Yeah.
a use case now. I think ChatGPT is way more popular because it does a lot of things better. But Bard is Google at the end of the day, and I think Apple is going to come out with their AIs. I mean, they don't talk about it a lot. I don't know if you saw when they released Vision Pro. There's a lot of AI in that, but they didn't
Yeah.
mention it once,
They don't
which is
mention it.
really interesting. So I think Apple, they're really careful of rolling things out. They're probably going to be the latest to the game. That's usually what it is with Apple. They just
I
take
think
it a
you're
little
right.
bit. But then when they come out with something, they might be the best or the more premium option. We'll see how that goes. I'm just interested to see what these kind of big players, what they are doing in the AI space and how that's going to evolve. But I don't think Google and SEO is going anywhere. That's like a way to identify content. But with, I think people will go more and more to maybe find answers from the AI. I think that's what I'm seeing. But still, I think people are like, search. I mean, Google, I think people are still going to use Google for a long time to go to search. Just you can maybe get some more, can get a
Yeah.
summary for something. You have an article you read, you can get a summary from the AI very easily. You
Right.
don't need to even read the full thing anymore.
That's the thing. Like, who's reading everything anymore? And I think,
Yeah.
and Google, it's funny that you say that about like Google and Apple. Think about the two companies that you're mentioning that are like
Yeah.
behind. It's why when people say, who do you think is going to come out on top? I'm like, I don't, I have no idea. Like, because what I know right now is that the companies that are sort of like behind are Google and Apple. Like those are like the two colossal tech companies really on the planet
Yeah.
for very different reasons.
And Google was
But
not first, by the way. There was other browsers before. So usually the
right,
first player, they're not always the one who's winning the game. And I'm not saying there's going to be a winner either. I'm sure there can be many players succeeding in this and having different things, but there's for sure going to be one. Okay, this is the biggest one. This is the one that most people use. That's like most people use Google. Bing has gotten some notoriety now with all these things. I never considered Bing before. Now it's kind of
never.
popular because it has like DALL-E 3 and some
Yep.
different things. And I think it's by
Yeah.
Microsoft, right? That's
Well, and
why.
that's the thing. And does Microsoft even care? It's one of these things where they're making so much money from their investment in
Yeah.
OpenAI. They're making so much money on the cloud now that maybe Bing is not going to be. It used to be just like search, right? It used to be like
Yeah.
Microsoft has 3% of search, Google has 97% of search. And maybe that's not the thing anymore. Because again, when you think about who to invest in, Anthropic is getting just tons of money from everybody at this point.
Mhm.
And when you think about Apple, everything I'm doing right now is I have my Apple AirPods and my iPhone and my Mac and everything I'm doing right now is Apple. That's my ecosystem. And Apple just like talk about a monopoly. Yeah, they're taking their time. Bard came out, it fell flat on its face. Gemini is going to come out. It's probably going to be a lot better. But there's going to be sort of, and so then you think of like Meta, Anthropic, OpenAI. There's a few of these people that are going to be in the game. I just wonder if it's going to be sort of like limited to those companies. Maybe, maybe not. I'm not sure.
It's just, yeah, it's interesting. I feel also like with Apple, they, in Notion, for example, is a note-taking thing, and you can
Yeah.
have your full process there, like a task management, whatever you want. Apple Notes, which is Apple's note-taking thing, they don't have AI built in yet.
Right.
So they are like behind a little bit on, like in other tools, you have it already in many, many tools like this,
True.
similar. So I
True.
think that's gonna come. I mean, they
Interesting.
can't be behind on this. I think all of Apple's stuff, maybe not this year, but I think next year, I think that's when they're gonna, I mean, hopefully they start releasing some things, because that's gonna probably be part of one of the updates, and they make it this huge thing. They don't normally
Yeah.
do it for a launch, and it's like new, basically. That Apple, they are really good with launches. You want the thing. They just, at
Amazing.
the time we're recording this, I don't need another computer, but they just launched like new computer. It's matte, I think it's like space black. It's a new color.
That's okay. Can I just say that on that? That's the only thing I don't understand is like the new iPhone that would come out, and the only change is that it's like green. I'm like, how is that like an update? Like
Yeah, I got the new iPhone.
I don't know, like so, but again, because you live in this ecosystem and because Apple has proven themselves,
Yeah.
I will use an inferior quality like Notes. I use Apple Notes all the time, even though it's not near. I also use Notion, but it's not nearly as good. But it's right there. It's in your
So
ecosystem.
fast. I use Apple Notes too for a lot of things. It's so
Yeah,
fast.
it's just
So
fast. I know, and also it's right there. It's in your
yep,
ecosystem. I think that goes a long
exactly.
way.
What do you think about the ethical implications, especially when the written stuff you have talked quite a bit about the originality and things like that of the content, which you still own? If it's more like to regarding the image AI, I think I've seen a lot certain tools they will
Yep.
defend you, and if you go to court or
Yeah.
something like that,
Yeah.
Adobe, if you sign up for them, they have in their terms, so you're getting
Yeah. The
great.
indemnification. Yes.
But with Midjourney, for example, you don't own the rights to basically you don't have a copyright. So if you just take it straight out of Midjourney, you don't have anything like any protection whatsoever
Right.
for the image. So I guess it's not like good for a big company just to use it straight out of there. But
Right.
then what I've heard is that if you edit it or make it your own, then it's yours. You need to do something more with the image
Yeah.
essentially. So what's your thoughts about around this? I'm sure you see a lot around maybe what's coming with legislation, things like that regarding
Yeah.
this.
It's an interesting one, right? Because you're right. Midjourney. I think that's the right analogy. Midjourney versus Adobe, for example. Because I think right now Midjourney is. I think it's the best image
Oh,
generator.
amazing. Like hands
And
down. It's
yeah,
great.
and I use it for everything. In a pinch, I'll use Dolly because it's built into ChatGPT, and you can
But
sort
I
of
compare the images. They don't look. I love photorealism. I mean, some people do a lot of
yeah,
crazy art, right? But I try to like do like I wanted to just do something crazy. I wanted to do like a fashion photo shoot because these are really expensive and really
yeah,
fancy. They didn't look 100% when I did it in Dolly 3. Like, it didn't look that looked like artificial a little bit. If you
right.
do it in Midjourney, it's way better. It
You
looks
tell.
real pretty
Yeah.
much. You cannot. It's really difficult to tell. I've also used another tool called Stock, which is quite good as well.
I've used it.
That one was maybe similar to DALL-E 3, maybe a little bit better for certain things. I found
Yeah.
it, and it was pretty cheap too. So I was testing it out.
Yeah, and it's great to compare them, right? Because you're right. Midjourney has the best quality, especially with photorealism. It's
For
incredible.
sure.
But then, Dolly, I think, is doing the same thing with indemnification around copyright things, and Adobe is as well, and Midjourney does it. Midjourney is actually a much smaller company. Obviously, they don't have like the resources that Google image creation or Microsoft image creation or something like that has to say, don't worry, we'll pay your law, your legal bills. I don't think Midjourney can do that right now. And I think that also it's just, they're going to have to figure out a way to do that. The copyright laws are very interesting. I think they still do say if you create it with AI, that it can't be yours, which on text is impossible to tell. Imagery, it's almost, I don't want to say it's easy to tell, but like nobody's going to capture this, photorealistic thing of a hamster in a spacesuit. You're probably going to know that that's artificially generated, right? So with the ethical stuff around that, I have a hard time with it because we've already gone down this path where all this information has been scraped off Reddit and Twitter, X, and from all these authors, everything like that. I have a book, like you can go in and you can ask it all questions about the stuff that I write. I don't mind it so much, but I totally understand why people who've worked their whole lives to content create are just like, what the heck? Now people can just grab this and really mimic and even improve upon very quickly that because they have it's not even technical expertise. It's really democratized. It's almost any kid and 13-year-old in their
Yeah.
basement can create all this stuff. So I think ethically it's really challenging. I do think that they will start to come up with some policies around this, right? Because you can't keep scraping news off from the New York Times and everything else and expect that that's going to
Yeah.
be okay. So I'm guessing that they're going to come to some grand, huge bargain. And I think it probably they're going to try to solve it one time and then that's it. Do you know what I mean? Because it's just so huge, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree regarding this. I think that's what's gonna happen actually. But just interesting. And I had the question regarding also the tools. Do you use any other tools, by the way? Just on the top of my head.
Yeah, some, right? So obviously I use the large language models, right? So I'll use ChatGPT, everything that comes along with it. I'll use Claude because it has a bigger context window. I was using Bing and Bard for different things, but now with Perplexity, I'm not really using those. Perplexity has really replaced Google for me, I would say. And the other huge one that I use all the time is Canva. If people need any kind of image thing, it used to be Canva to me used to be a little intimidating, right? You get on there, it's a very complicated first homepage, I think. I don't think they need all that. I wish they would almost more Googleize it and make it simpler because if you're coming in it and you don't know where you're going, it's hard to know which direction to take at first. But then once you're like in and you just click design something and doesn't matter what it is. The AI tools in there now are just mind bending. The amount that they have in there for no matter if you're trying to do a LinkedIn carousel or an Instagram grid or a video or a YouTube thumbnail, you just click on that and it'll give you 1,000 different options and you can move everything around. But now just in the last couple of weeks, whenever it was, with all these magic grab, you can like literally, if you're sitting there, I can grab you and put you on the other side of your studio
Yeah.
flawlessly. And it's just incredible. So the fact that AI is so built into Canva has really made my life easier. I don't do a lot with video. So I know people talk about Runway and things like that. I don't really do much of that. But other tools like you're sort of talking about, some of them are just Chrome extensions, right? Like you just like grab the transcript of a YouTube video, it throws it automatically to ChatGPT and automatically tells you. So I see an hour-long YouTube video. I'm like, I'm not going to watch that. And
Yeah.
it just like spits it out. And then I can know whether I'm going to go back and watch it. The things that I haven't really found a ton of success with yet are the slide deck tools. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
tried. Maybe they've gotten better, but they produce something fairly generic. And it's great if you just need sort of an idea about how this will look. That's great. But I think at some point it's really going to be able to, capture everything that you really want to see. And sort of like you can show it an example and then it will do that. To me, a lot of people say video is the next frontier. Audio is getting there. But for me, like the slide decks, because so many people use them, that's the next big frontier for me
Yeah.
personally.
No, I just a little bit on that. I love Canva as well, and now with the AI tools, just mind blowing, as you said. And
Incredible.
I'm sure they're gonna get better. It's like it's not mid journey quality or something like that when you create an image or something like that, but it's a lot. It's like accessible to a lot of
Yeah,
people who
accessible.
This is a tool you probably already use if you're a creator.
Right.
And yeah, what else? Like yeah, I think this Chrome extension and things like that are really exciting as well. To just drop a link or summarize.tech, I use sometimes for just taking a link for a YouTube video or something
Yeah.
like that. But
Yeah. 100%.
yes, something else I just thought of before we wrap this up. I like importing knowledge, like your knowledge. So you have a wealth of knowledge. For example, you could do like a chat basically and just import your knowledge, and that's limited to what you feed it basically. I've seen tools like Searchy, there's like Wonder Chat, there's some other tools as well. You can build your own as well. What's your take on this? Have you seen this a lot? Is that something companies should use this? That would be incredible. That could for example, customer support and things like
Yeah.
that, or like in a members area for if you have a course or product or anything like that, just having like answers. Let's say for me, what is a virtual summit? How do you host a virtual? I can have questions that like taken from a blog post or a PDF or something I just upload to this tool, and yeah, and then people can chat with
Yeah.
me.
I'm dying to dive into that because even at NYU, at Stern, at the business school, we're starting to look at that too. Because, so for example, I'm in the Office of Student Engagement. We have a lot of questions just like, hey, how do you do this? How do you run a club? How do you host an event? Just like things that are not academic related. That's the world that I'm in the business school. And all these questions we already have like in Google, we have all these templates. Do you know what I mean? Like to just put in there. But these are fairly straightforward questions that you answer over and over again. And if you can have just a bot where you upload all these templates that we have, and then just say, when this comes in, just answer this, the amount of human resources, just like
Just upload
saving.
your book, Connor. You
But
can.
that's
You
the
have
thing.
a book. I'm sure you have a lot of stuff you haven't shared too much. You can upload your knowledge, and people could chat with it, or you can
Amazing.
even have it in a membership, or maybe for your LinkedIn program, right? You might have something around this. People have questions, right? And you can upload this knowledge. I think that will be incredible. And it's just like cloning yourself. As we haven't talked too much about this, but yeah, with HeyGen and 11 Labs and things like
Yeah.
that, your voice. And even in Descript now, I just saw it the other
Wow.
day. I'm sure they've had it for a little while, but I didn't use it for some time. It's just now you can actually clone your voice in seconds. It's like probably 80 to 85%. The tonality is a little wrong. It's not as high quality you
Yep.
would get if you train it with 11 Labs and things like that for a longer clip. But yeah, it's pretty wild that you can
It's
do this in a tool. Yeah.
it's such a good idea because you're right. All these tools are starting to build on top of each other, right? Where it's
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
you can already get the bot, you can get the text down, but now you can get the avatar down and then you can get the voice down, and they're coming so fast that you're
Yeah.
right. Again, if you have a lot of things and you have people coming to you with questions, I've seen this with some big coaches, Marshall Goldsmith, who's a big coach. I'm doing a keynote with him
Nice.
recently. Scott Galloway, who's at NYU Stern with me. He has, Professor G bot or whatever, and I've tested it out and really good. You know what I mean? Like you upload
Yeah.
enough stuff, it's going to sound like you and give
I
answers
mean,
that sound like you.
this will solve the need for a professor or a teacher answering
Mm.
questions from the students a lot of the times, because a lot of questions are like
Incredible.
repetitive. They're like
Yeah.
questions you can already have and use. It's the same in my world with the creators and things like that with online businesses. You can just cut down customer support, you can cut down time, and people can get just a better experience, I think. So
100%. I know. I
yeah.
love that. Yeah. I'm super excited. It's one of the things I'm
So
most excited about the future.
awesome. Yeah. And on a final note, I have two more questions. So what's
Yeah.
your number one piece of advice you would give creators who want to get started with diving into the world of AI and implementing this in their creator business?
Yeah. So I think number one is that, if you are a creator and you already have the tools that you use and everything like that, don't feel like you have to go and find a ton of new tools. You need to know how to use large language models. So if you're not good on ChatGPT, you should don't just practice on it. Take the things that you do during the day, because a job is not one big thing. Your job is made up of tasks. So take individual tasks, apply them to ChatGPT, and see how they do. And remember that it's like an intern. Give it feedback if it doesn't give you an answer right away. That's the skill that I think everybody needs. And then number two is what I was just saying, which is a lot of the tools that you use, as long as they're big enough, like Canva and things like that, these are going to have AI tools built in. Don't feel like AI is like something you have to go and get and sort of put AI on top. Like AI should be completely infused in what you are doing. It's just going to make what you do better. It's going to make you a better you. And that's what Canva does and everything else. Instead of wrestling with how do you move images and spending all that time, all you need to do is use it just like in a way that you would normally use it anyway.
And finally, my final question, was there a question that you wanted me to ask, but I didn't? Or do you have any final words of wisdom?
I think this was awesome. And in fact, I think we just covered the gamut. I love everywhere we went. I loved hearing from you about how you do it. I think one of the really fascinating things is when you hear the interviewer, so to speak, hear like, how do they do creation? Because like you've gotten to this position by really figuring it out. So I really appreciate you sharing that.
Great. And where can people find more about you? Is LinkedIn the best place, or do you have like your website or?
Yeah, thanks. I think LinkedIn is a great spot. I'm there every day. So please go over to LinkedIn. And then this AI Applied podcast is really going over the news and tools. And we have actually, I'm not always into big interviews, but like we have some great people we're going to be interviewing and just understanding how you actually take the news, take the tools and actually apply them to your personal life and to your career.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite podcasts. I will link it up in the description. And now with Connor part of it as well, it's even better. It's actually a really good podcast. I'll link that up and his LinkedIn and some resources. And yeah, if you like this session, do leave your takeaways below as well. And subscribe to the channel for more. Like this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao for now.